Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind on one of our over 150 slot games. Head over to the website today to get in on the action. Bet Online. The game starts here.
This is the Fun Belt Podcast, part of the Believe Network.
Host to Dusty Thibodeaux of Warhawk Report, Jeremy Harper of Howl Razor, and Shane Mettlen of the Daily News Record.
I think it's potentially a very good week for the Sun Belt.
But I'm just kind of going off on a random rant. It's just frustrating. News breaks, of course, while you're in the game about Mountain West offers coming out. Do you try to keep that away from your team, or do you just kind of embrace it and say it is what it is, and we just play in the Sun Belt this year?
Yeah, we're just playing football. We'll let Don and Kelly handle that.
Jeremy, Shane, I'm decked out.
Yeah,
because the great news came that the Viva La Boobcats lost to Sam Houston. That is not why I'm wearing this shirt, though. We get to hold on to the Boobcats, float in the river. Jordan McLeod, G.J. Kinney, T.J. at the basketball arena. Heartbreaks, disappointment, solid baseball, great softball. Jessica Mullins, even though she's no longer there playing softball anymore, we get it all still because Texas State is not leaving us.
Yeah, and you know what I don't know if you guys are going to back me up on this or not, because this is just sort of like a feeling. It's kind of like a feeling that I got. That there was a lot of people kind of rooting for Texas State maybe to go. There were a lot of people sort of saying, hey, listen, this is an opportunity to get someone else in the league. I don't know, maybe somebody like a Western Kentucky, somebody, an old friend of the Sun Belt, maybe a friend that never should have left in the first place. Shane, did you get that feeling? Did you feel that way at all? Did you get that vibe?
I kind of, to some degree. I mean, it's just more like, I don't know if anybody was like pushing them out the door, but it was kind of like, yeah, if one team's going to leave, like that makes sense, right? I mean, because it's like they're a little bit out there compared to the rest of the conference. Like, who's their rival? I mean, you can pinpoint just about everybody else in the conference. Who's their rival? Who do they hate? Who hates them? Who do they really want to play? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if like Texas State quite has that in the Sun Belt. Doesn't mean the Mountain West is a better option for them.
No,
but
yeah.
I mean, but if you think of that though, Shane, ULM should be looking to move on to greener pastures, right? Because we don't have a rival. I mean, Louisiana Lafayette, they're not our rival, right? Because they're so much way better than the Warhawks. Arkansas State is literally up above us.
The fact that you're saying this proves my point, because who would Texas State say that about?
And by the way, Thibs, what you're doing is projecting your own insecurities on me and Shane. Listen, we consider you an equal. Just because you've never beaten Arkansas State in like 14 years, just because you haven't been to a bowl game in like since, what was it, 2007?
12, you
don't have to feel inferior to Shane and I. We put on our pants the same way you put on your pants, Thibs. You don't have to feel smaller to us.
Jeremy, you can't have your heart broken losing a bowl game if you never go to a bowl game.
That's true. So anyway, the Bobcats, I guess, staying. They put out that nice release on Twitter, kind of bragging, humble bragging a little bit. Hey, yeah, everybody's had interest in us, Texas State. People love us out there, guys, but we're going to stay here, right? They got to put that out.
It looked like something Shane had written. Did they outsource that to you, Shane?
No, they didn't. I'm available for anybody who wants me to write those kinds of statements. Like, just let me know. I'll do it for a modest fee.
It's an art. I mean,
$8 million.
how do you put out a statement that one says, yes, hey everybody, hey, it's like if like you're that friend who start maybe hanging out with some other friends that maybe a little bit cooler, and then you come back to the old friend group, you're like, hey, the old guys are here, hey, look what we doing tonight. That's kind of how Texas State is right now. They're kind of like that. They're like, all that implication that we're bailing, that we were liking someone else more than you. Just forget about that. It's all good. It's kind of like when J.D. Vance was like, I don't want to think about the last election. I'm thinking about the next or this election. That's kind of how Texas State is right now. Water is under the bridge. We're just going to move forward. We're going to press forward and press for more national championships, which I thought was pretty cool.
And that's why we know we couldn't record on Tuesday night, because Jeremy was obviously watching the debate there.
I was. I mean,
that's what he had. That was the emergency he had that came up, was this pre-planned on national TV debate.
It's a little more complicated than that, but the debate did have something to do with it, yes.
You should put it on your TiVo.
I don't have TiVo. Who was that? Was that like one of? Remember when everybody had a recorder? What was it? A DVR? Remember DVRs?
That's what TiVos are.
Is that what TiVos are?
Yeah. TiVo is just like a brand name.
Okay. Well, I had
Jeremy,
like a Sony.
You would go to
DVR.
people's house and mess with their TiVo. Like, you would upvote everything. And so, like, TiVo would want to go out and automatically record these shows for you, but it was recording all kind of random shit because you're over there just upvoting everything at people's house.
Now, are you guys old enough to have meticulously programmed the VCR to like record your next episode of Matt Houston? Have you ever done something like that? I mean, it was like you had to be a NASA scientist, an engineer to make that work right.
I don't know. I think my dad took care of all that stuff when I was a kid, like programming VCR. Because I do remember, middle school sports were played on Thursday nights. So I remember in the 90s, you could come home and like my dad had recorded Seinfeld and all those shows.
Yeah, man, that would suck on Thursday nights. That was must-see TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was The Cosby Show. That was Family Ties. That was Night Court. That was Cheers. Man, that made up a lot of my childhood right there. Thank God I didn't play many sports. But Texas State. Okay, so Thibs, you seem excited that Texas State is staying. I know why, because you're sort of a Texas State brother. They sort of adopted you into the fold. Do you feel like there was any real danger they were ever leaving? Like, I never felt like they were going. Did you feel like maybe they were going to leave?
Maybe. And I think that it's like you're never looking for the job, Jeremy. But if even Elon calls and he's like, hey, we need to talk to you about doing some marketing for X, you'd be like, well, okay. Well, let's hear the spiel. Well, what's your dental benefits look like? I think it was really them kind of kicking the tires and seeing how much are we worth? How much are you willing to give us? What's this full thing kind of look like? Good for them for doing the due diligence and vetting it out and not just, having the rubber stamp of stamping it going, yep, we're gone. We're out of here. And I think that speaks volumes of what Keith Gill has really built in the Sun Belt Conference, as well as the camaraderie we have amongst ADs, presidents, to be able to retain the talent, so to say.
Should he have done that thing like they did in the AAC, the American, where Memphis and Tulane decided they were going to stay, or Air Force, I forget the other guys too. And so then everybody put out their graphic about being united. Why didn't Texas State do that? They should have done that. We're united.
Maybe they're not quite that united at this point.
Listen, Pac-12, I think they said today, right? Pac-12 is pretending like everything's cool, but they're like, yeah, we're not looking for a new school right now. We're going to weigh at a broadcast thing, and then we'll get back to finding that eighth school. But do you get the feeling like maybe they're getting a little desperate?
I don't know. I mean, they haven't offered Texas State for some reason. So I don't know what's going on with the Pac-12. They've got to add another team, and Texas State seems to be one of the better ones on board, but they haven't extended an offer. So I really don't get what's going on with the Pac-12 at this point. And I think that's why Texas State's statement was pretty carefully worded, that they talked to one conference and turned them down.
Oh, okay. I didn't read that close enough.
Yeah.
I thought they said they had.
They're staying in the Sun Belt at this point, is what it said.
Oh, okay.
But like they said they like basically like entertained an offer from one particular conference and turned that down.
And that was the Mountain West.
And then everything I've heard is like, they've talked to other conferences, but they haven't gotten the offers from those leagues yet. So I honestly don't know what the Pac-12 is waiting for in terms of like offering some of these schools, Texas State included, but it might not be over yet. That's just long-winded way to say that. It might not all be over yet.
I think they're waiting to see if Sacramento State actually has their $75 million cash money ready to go, like they said, which would be way more than Texas has dedicated to NIL, that Alabama has dedicated to NIL, and yet this is a FCS, pretty good powerhouse program. Maybe they're waiting to see, is this actually legit?
Yeah, that's gotten kind of crazy all of a sudden with Sacramento State, all that money, and the Kings are now saying like, yeah, you can play in our arena, like
if it's available.
Yeah, but that's pretty wild. Like, I mean, I guess you can kind of look at, if you're in Sacramento, maybe you look at UTSA like getting like all this attention, and you're like, it's sort of similar situation. We're a big city with no NFL team. Like maybe this would be cool to like play big time football. So. Yeah,
I heard there was an arena.
Maybe that's what's going to end up happening.
I heard there was an arena in Oakland they could use.
Yeah,
yeah, they got a couple things there. Listen, is it, in retrospect, this is all idiotic, right? I mean, couldn't all this have been just avoided? All this confusion, all this consternation, all this backstabbing? Couldn't that have all been avoided if the old Pac-2 had just kind of, done the right thing and simply said, hey, Mountain West, let's make ourselves a 14-member conference. We can be the Pac West. And let's just go from there. Invite them all and stuff, saying, oh, we're gonna select some of the choice brands. We're gonna leave the others behind. I mean, wouldn't the smart move, if you have to look back with 2020 hindsight, have been just absorb the entire Mountain West? Everybody gets to save face. Instead, it goes into this petty turf war.
Jeremy, it's another instance of things that just don't make sense. I mean, how many hot dog buns come in a package?
Is it 8?
8.
Yeah.
How many tubular meat devices come in a package?
Well, yes, but that's a coordinated effort between Big Hot Dog and Big Hot Dog Bun. See, they're finding ways to leverage that out of the American.
But it doesn't make sense.
They want you to make an extra trip to the store.
That's exactly it. That's what it is. It's Big Hot Dog Bun, screwing the consumer again. And that's kind of what's going on here. I mean, if you gotta look at it, the people that are getting screwed the most are the people that college athletic cares about the least. And that's the fans. They don't care about tugging or heartstrings, about swirling or emotions. They don't care about that. They only care about getting the bag. But you know what? That's content for like some other, not second and short. What do you call it? Plugs, promos, and parting shots. We're not doing that right now, Thibs.
No, we just started.
You know what? If we really want to get angry, we should talk about how Texas State really dropped the bag against the Bearcats. You were watching that game, Thibs, weren't you? Were you not at NRG Stadium for that?
I think I was. That press box is essentially sitting on top of the roof there from the picture that I tweeted out on our account. No, it was a good first quarter.
Yes,
it was an okay first half.
It was not bad. You could see some of the foundations crumbling, though.
Oh, without a doubt. There were so many penalties and so much just missed opportunity. And, GJ Kinney said it best. We just had too many penalties. We didn't play well. We didn't coach well. It was all the above. And I think really, to me, the highlight of that game was that Mason Shipley connected from 60 yards out to close out the first half.
That's right. That was a nice field goal.
And that's sad when the kicker is your highlight of that game.
There was good stuff. First of all, shout out to Sunbelt kickers this week. There were a lot of 50 and 49-yard, 48-yard field goals made by Sunbelt kickers this week. It was pretty impressive to watch. If you're looking out for that kind of thing, which not a lot of people do, I just happen to be looking out going, wow, there's a lot of great kicks being made. And, man, it was a great week, Thibs and Shane, for the Sunbelt. I mean, we destroyed the MAC. And then, Louisiana gets that nice win against the ACC. And then you get Texas State, which looked like a sure shot win. Should we be worried about Texas State, Shane? I mean, this is the second game in a row where they're in good position to win the game, and they cannot close the door on it.
To some degree, yeah. I think, not to bring it all back to JMU, but look at what they did.
God, here we go, Tim.
It's
all about JMU.
Louisiana or some of these programs have been able to do after a bye week. And Texas State had that bye week, and they didn't fix their big problem of not finishing the game against Arizona State. That to me is a little bit concerning. If you're Texas State, that if it's 2 weeks in a row, that's one thing. Having that bye week in between, that to me, I'm just a little bit perplexed that they didn't, just have that mentality fixed that, hey, this game's not over at halftime.
Yeah, and that is a mentality. I hate bringing it back to the Red Wolves, but Butch Jones used to call that learning how to win. Because there's a stretch where A-State would find themselves in the fourth quarter with a lead, and they would lose the lead and lose the game. There's 4 or 5 games a couple of years ago where that would happen. He would say, we just don't know how to win. And I didn't quite understand that, but I think I understand that now. It is a mentality, Thibs, to have your team have that sort of wherewithal to say, okay, we've got to close this bag now because this is when the opposition is going to play their hardest. They're going to try to get us here. We've got to play just as hard as we played in the first quarter. You agree with that, Thibs?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like whenever you're on that long losing streak, right? Sometimes the only fix for a long losing streak is to win. And you do whatever you can to actually get that dub going. And I feel like Texas State might have even kind of hit that threshold where they just don't know how to close out the game. They don't know how to finish all the way through. And it's frustrating because that would have been a huge win when they would have beaten Arizona State. It would have been a huge win to keep the Sun Belt atop the G5 standings when they can beat Conference USA's premier team there in Sam Houston. But they just aren't able to get it done. You now got to hope that with all the hype coming in for Texas State this year, that they're able to right the ship for that Thursday night game against Troy to kind of open it up, because Troy's licking their wounds also, losing last week to ULM and really had nothing to show for it offensively.
Let's talk about that game. I watched that game, and let me tell you something. That was one of those games where Troy has the ball. I felt like Troy had the ball a lot. It seems like that. I didn't see the numbers, but it seemed like they had possession a lot. And they have this running back, Green, right, who just plows through people. I mean, Warhawks are just bouncing off this guy. And no touchdowns for the whole game, Thibs. One touchdown for the Warhawks. That seemed to be enough. It was a low-scoring game. It was probably the most exciting low-scoring game since Troy, South Alabama, a few Thursday night years ago. I was just mesmerized by this lack of offense game, simply because it just seemed like just a slobber knock between one team that was supposed to suck and another team that was supposed to be good. And it's just not working out for Troy. And it's coming out roses for ULM. Thibs, what is going on? How is Bryant Vincent getting this done?
I don't want to know where he put the rabbit foot because that's definitely what it seems like. I was very happy, though, that on that second, third drive, whatever it was, that the booty experiment was over with and Aiden Armenta came in. Still didn't throw the ball very much. I think he was 4 or 5 for 108 yards. But he looked a hell of a lot better running the offense. And I think that's why he's going to get the nod this week against the Dukes when they come to Malone Stadium.
Wow, that's going to be
But yeah, it was a good defensive struggle. I really enjoyed the defensive struggle there. But I not to take anything away from ULM's defense, because I definitely think they have one of the better defenses in the league. That's a bad Troy offensive team, and it didn't help when Goose Crowder went down with an injury.
Now, Goose wasn't playing great, but at least he knows the offense, right?
Right.
And, yeah. And so, yes, it was kind of doomsday for them. But you always kind of thought, well, Troy's going to figure it out, and they never did. Shane, I've got a conspiracy theory, and I want you to back me up on this.
Okay.
The only reason why General Booty was named starting quarterback for ULM was a promotional thing, sort of a PR gimmick to get people talking about the Warhawks, who were expected, by the way, not to win any games. But now they're 3-1, and you don't need General Booty to create excitement.
I'm going to punt that one over to Thibs because he knows the lay of the land. Like, it does make a little bit of sense, but I think maybe it's also, as much as we all love the name, you got the guy from Oklahoma. You got the guy who has a little bit of experience. I can see maybe why he's the front runner to win that job to start with, but we also kind of maybe see why he never got much of a chance at Oklahoma at this point.
It was a missed opportunity that we didn't have billboards, T-shirts of the Warhawks are back, get your booty in the stands. I mean, there were so many missed opportunities there that I was disappointed in. But no, even coming into this, right, I really liked Aiden Armenta because he was with Vincent at New Mexico. Right. He was at him with Vincent in New Mexico, so he knows the expectations. He knows the offense. He knows exactly what he's trying to get done at ULM. What better guy to run your offense when you have so many different pieces that you have to worry about putting together than a quarterback that you're already familiar with? And I say that more so from Vincent's standpoint, that you have your guy. You've already vetted him. You've already recruited him once, now twice even. But you know what exactly his capabilities are. You know that he's going to know the offense. He's going to put you in the right position to succeed. He should have been the guy straight out of the gate.
Thibs, didn't 10 guys take snaps for the Warhawks on Saturday night?
Well, I mean, it was the normal 3. I mean, you had Booty start. You had Armenta in there, and then kind of our Taysom Hill of Will Herring taking snaps.
So only 3 guys? Okay.
That was it.
For some reason, I thought 5 guys ended up getting snaps. I don't know why I thought that.
And I really liked what they've done with Will Herring of kind of throwing him into the mix. You know, he was the quarterback and maybe the heir apparent before the coaching turnover in the offseason. But he doesn't really have a home to fit into. Maybe he's a little too small to be a tight end despite his height. Maybe not quick enough to play receiver.
Nice. Okay.
A little fragile to be a running back. Obviously, he's not going to be able to beat out Booty or Aiden Armenta for a long-term quarterback, but he's a great weapon to come in for these little onesie-twosie plays and really make a difference.
And hard to plan for. Speaking of planning for, guys, I'm sure the Warhawks are going to be planning for James Madison and their visit. We'll talk about that in the next episode. But oh my God, Shane Mettlen, how wrong was I about the Dukes? I said the Dukes are going to need a couple years to recover after losing Signetti, who was 5-0, by the way, at Indiana. Oh my God, those guys.
I'm glad you Googled him.
You thought I Googled that? I've been keeping up with Signetti. I love the guy. Signetti's great. You guys are afraid of him. I'm not. He's my pal. But no, anyway. So, the team under Bob Chesney is just churning out points. I mean, if it weren't for an 87-point explosion from South Alabama, it would be JMU by a mile leading in offense right now. So, Shane, I know there's some complaints. There's some people saying that the schedule has not been very tough for JMU. And that's not JMU's fault. They just go out there and play. But they're winning by margins that maybe that doesn't matter anymore, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I think keep in mind they scored 70 points at North Carolina, who has their issues right now, but still has a lot of talent there. So, I mean, the overall strength of schedule is not very good, but they do kind of have their signature win right there. And I don't know, Bob Chesney, Brian Vincent, they're not making it easy on other guys who come in and take over programs. When they're like, yeah, we'll just get 60 new players. No big deal. That excuse might not fly for some of these programs anymore when they have the coaching.
And you can throw G.J. Kinney into that too. And they instant success. Yeah, and that makes guys like, for instance, Butch Jones at Arkansas State, who's in year 4, and he keeps saying, "Oh, it's about the process. You got to wait for these guys to mature. You got to wait for the team to come up." Meanwhile, you see these 3 guys, they come in, they sprinkle some magic dust, and all of a sudden they're getting some wins. That must be pretty crazy. But yeah, once again, another great performance by Alonzo Bennett, right?
Barnett. You got the first name right. That's the tough one.
Did I get it right, though? I kept going. I went through like 3 phases. But he's been looking great. The defense has been looking good. I think after North Carolina, I said something snotty like, well, they gave up 50 points in North Carolina, so there's something wrong going on here. But, man, you know what? By the way, I was watching that game with, was it Bowling Green? No, Ball State. You were playing Ball State, right? And one of the defensive ends put down a sack on the quarterback, right? He gets up, he does like a choreographed dance. Then a friend of his comes over, and they do a choreographed dance. Then he walks up to the defensive line and does another choreographed dance with some other guys. That was 3 choreographed dances, Shane Mettlen. That's elite.
Yeah, that's to get that kind of chemistry with all those transfers, I think is pretty impressive.
I like that. It's a matter of chemistry. That's pretty good. So we're going to talk about that JMU ULM showdown in the next episode. I'm looking forward to that. But also another great game. Tibbs, I don't know if you got to see it. You were commenting on it via the Twitter technology. Louisiana versus Wake Forest. Forest spelled with 1 R. I'll never understand that. Louisiana looked pretty good. Now, there are times when the defense would break down and Wake Forest would find a way to score. Ended up holding off Wake Forest with a doinked field goal at the end. But what a great win going all the way to the East Coast. Kind of rebounding from that disappointment against Tulane. What did you think of the Cajuns after that?
I thought it was good. I felt like they would momentarily lose focus. Like they didn't.
Yeah.
It's like they forgot that they were supposed to be competing in the game. The Deacons would get a big play, move the ball, and then the Cajuns would snap back down and they were back in it. But yeah, I thought that was a huge win. I thought that was great. I think Wake Forest is probably going to start buying out some Sunbelt teams and not want to play them between the days when ULM swept them. Now the Cajuns have beaten them. We might be done and no longer the ACC may not be hospitable towards the Sunbelt anymore.
Yeah, you would think that the ACC would learn their lesson and just start scheduling more MAC teams, kind of like what we did. By the way, I made a big mistake, Shane. For some reason, I thought Western Michigan was a Mountain West team. So, I kept saying, we got this big win over the Mountain West with the Thundering Herd. But no, they're in the MAC.
It'll be in a couple weeks.
I know, it could be true. Just wait a few days and maybe my lie will become the truth. But the Herd comes away with a pretty good win against Western Michigan, which was nice. Even South Alabama didn't look horrible against LSU, although it seemed like LSU was just kind of like, we can kind of do what we want against this team. I was kind of hoping that the Jags were going to kind of make a game of it, and they never really did. They had some moments of competence, though. So, overall, aside from the loss to the Bearcats, which I always hate losing to CUSA, guys. It's always a little embarrassing to me to lose to CUSA. But I thought overall a good week. Would you guys agree?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great week.
Yeah, I mean, I think the disappointment of Texas State losing is a little hard to overcome, like just because they lost to. But
do you feel maybe a little okay with it because they did all that public flirting around and they kind of got slapped down just a little bit? Like, hey, maybe you got a good thing here, and the football gods are shaming you a little bit.
I don't think anybody will take that into consideration when they're deciding which G5 champs go into the playoff.
That's true. That it did hurt us overall. Thibs, is it time for? Oh, sorry.
No, there's 2 other big games. We have the Georgia Love Fest.
Oh, yes, God.
Between Georgia Southern, Georgia State.
Yeah.
Eagles with a great rebound. I thought J.C. French once again kind of stepped up. He did have a little bit of fumbleitis, a couple big fumbles there that allowed Georgia State to hang around a little bit longer than they should have. And more importantly than any of the other games that we had this week, the weird team got the big win over Bowling Green. Once again, as you talked about, we dominated the MAC over the weekend.
Dominated the MAC.
Great for Ricky Ronnie.
Yeah, I feel like he needed that kind of relief. I felt like maybe his stomach was churning with a little bit too much gastric acid. And I don't want him to lose the light in his eyes. We want him to be the same happy-go-lucky guy as he's always been. And having all those close losses just tears the spirit out of you. I did watch a little bit of both games, actually, but a little bit more of those Georgia versus Georgia teams. And I actually had a bet online bet on that game. I felt like Georgia Southern was going to win that game. And at first it looked like they were going to win it handedly. Then Georgia State started doing some things in the second half that kind of threatened my friendly wager. And Georgia State, they just seem to be kind of dangerous, guys. I mean, not like they're a team that's going to challenge, because you got to give Del McGee some time. Sadly, you have to give Del McGee some time. You may not have to give Bryant Vincent some time, or Bob Chesney, or G.J. Kinney, but we got to give Coach Dell some time. But I feel like there's going to be some good things with Georgia State.
I thought Shane had something enlightening to say.
No, I mean, I will say, do we have to give Del McGee some time? He's already got that win over Vandy. I think they're better than maybe we expected. All
right. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, here's why I think we do got to give him some time. He didn't even get a full spring because of the whole shift of time. This is a classic Butch Jones year 0 for Del McGee.
This is his year. This is a true year 0 for Del McGee. I'm just
saying. I think they're maybe ahead of schedule, even with all that stuff considered. To have a Power 5 win at this point, they're competitive. There's good teams in the Sun Belt. Somebody's going to lose when they play each other. I'm not too worried about where Georgia State's heading just because they lost this one.
Ooh, and that's why I'm looking forward to this next week, guys. It's nothing but Sun Belt on Sun Belt football. It's going to be glorious just to see where it finally shakes out. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. And the only teams not playing are these Georgia teams. They get the rest.
They need some rest after loving each other that much.
All that love.
We got to get out of here on some plugged promos and parting shots. Shane, give us your normal spiel of the Daily News Record.
Come on, tell us how great the Daily News Record is.
I already said on Twitter what my parting shot was going to be. Ooh. Shout out to Old Dominion's Vinny Pasquantino coming back early from his massive injury to lead the Royals to victory, a sweep in Baltimore. He gets, RBI hit in the first inning. They win 2-1. He's not supposed to be out there, guys. This is Old Dominion, Sunbelt Magic. Matt Quintero, the manager, is also a Monarch.
Wow.
Basically, ODU is basically a farm team of the Royals at this point, and they're moving on to play the Yankees. So I said it on Twitter. That's my parting shot. Is thank you Monarchs from this lifelong Royals fan to get to enjoy the postseason a little longer.
ODU weirdness seeping into the Midwest. That's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Jeremy, what do you have for us?
All right. So we talked a little bit about Texas State coming in after they, had their talk with the one conference. And, I think there has been a little bit of needling at the Bobcats' expense. But let me tell you something, not really from my end, because I've worked my ass off, guys, for the last 5 years trying to position Texas State as a bitter rival to Arkansas State. I've called them the Boobcats. When I first talked about FCS mentality, it was with the Bobcats in mind. I always tried to find a way to prod and poke the Bobcats, who had always been affable. They're kind of like affable losers for a long time. Now that they're winning, they're not so affable anymore. They're ready to fight. I think that's great. I would love for Arkansas State and Texas State to become rivals. I would love for that to happen because I've been working for it so hard. So congratulations, Texas State, for at least not going to the Mountain West, for realizing you have a true rival right there in the Delta of Arkansas. Arkansas State. You don't need to leave for some school that'll promise you a Texas-based rival. Your rival's with us.
Golf clap. For mine, I'm actually going to do some plugs on the Twitters. We've seen it all out there. Asking for donations to help Georgia Southern, App State, with all of the mess. That is the only way to describe it that has gone on over there in their region with all of the remnants of the hurricane that went through there. They're all over the Twitters. They're on our Twitters. Please, if you can, hit the QR code, drop them some coin because they're going to need all the love, the dollars, and everything else they need to rebuild that. I know a company that I work for, we had upwards of 7 inches of mud in the facility we had and had to pump out over 15,000 gallons of water, and that's just one place.
That's pretty gross. So, Shane, I hope you feel, I don't know, a little ashamed. All your plugs about your little newspaper, that doesn't really matter when Thibs comes out with a plug from the heart. Thank you, Thibs, for showing Shane the way.
I agree.